Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Tuesday. Wow, I already forgot. Happy Tuesday. Merry Christmas Eve. So, you know what? I found out that might be a thing from Friends, but the show Friends, I don't know if it's true or not. I watched the show off and on, but I haven't watched it in years. I watched it when it was first run. But, yeah, I don't know. I've been saying that for so long because of work, right? Because a lot of people would take off on Christmas Eve and it's like, well, Merry Christmas Eve, and have a happy Christmas and a Christmas Eve. So, whatever it is and however it hits you, may it hit you wonderfully and may it hit you right. So, happy Tuesday. Oh, let's do some Aloha cards while we wait for people to come on. Also, if you could send some good juju vibes and prayers or whatever, you do, to Sammy's neighbor, that'd be wonderful. I'd appreciate it immensely. So, to Muddy's neighbor, and anybody out there who might need it, just let's all put out the good vibes and the prayers for, just hang them up there, right? And people can just pluck them down if they need it. So, because, it is a hard time of the year. It's, people struggle, and it's funny because I asked older sibling what to talk about yesterday, and she's all, talk about that. And I'm like, it's Christmas. Why do we want to talk about that? But it looks like we're going to go in that direction anyway. So, yeah. Oh, we got that one yesterday. All right, I'm going to randomly pick one. All right, there we go. We got three. And because I'm probably not going to do a show tomorrow, I don't know, maybe. Sammy looked up the thing from yesterday, the King's Christmas message. Well, the Queen of Canterbury Court, the Princess of Canterbury Court, may do one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Gather old shirts and make a quilt. Gather old shirts and make a quilt. If you don't know how to quilt, if you don't want to learn how to quilt, gather old shirts that you're not using. You can either, there are places on the internet that can make them into bears if you want them to, or into keepsake things for you. I have something of my mom's that I'm going to have done into that. And, or you can donate them to animal shelters. Okay, you can donate those old shirts to animal shelters. Write letters to essential workers and thank them for their service. You could always leave a nice little card in your mailbox for your mailman. Just say, with a candy cane or whatever, and say thank you. Create a playlist of your favorite songs and host a dance party, or create a list of your favorite songs and just, do the do. So, like I said, when I asked older sibling, who I think is still struggling to get on, even though I just talked to her, when I asked her what I should do today, she's all, you should talk about the holidays and how it affects people, and how everybody's a little bit different, and yada yada yada. I don't mean yada 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 in a mean way either, in a bad way. I do not. But just so on and so forth. And we kind of talked about the other things too. Oh, this is it. I have notes. Good morning, Muddy. So, patience, these were the notes, courtesy of Laura. Patience, empathy for those spending time alone or choosing to spend time alone. People mourning loved ones, people lost in their own overwhelm or stress. So, let's talk about that, all right? It wasn't the plan, but it is now. And as I was pulling those Aloha cards, it just kind of came out. So I think that's what we're meant to talk about today is, the holidays aren't always easy for a lot of people. And a lot of people don't, may not spend it with people. They may be away on work without, not by choice. Or by choice because it's work, but you know what I mean. So we're going to go with the courtesy of Laura, Christmas Eve, list of kindness, list of patience. So patience is number one on here. I know it's hard, and I can get a bit cranky when I drive, but be kind, because right now is going to be the one of the worst times to drive. Not just because it's going to be trafficy, but because people are going to be cranky AF. All right. They're going to be cranky if they're trying to get somewhere. Maybe they left late, and their stupidity should not shine onto you. Do not let it ruin your day. Now, I don't mean they're stupid for leaving late. I mean the way they drive when they're running late. It's like, look, you know what? Your family would rather have you there alive and late than never arrive at all. So just patience. Be kind, be safe, be gentle. And be gentle with yourself. And if you do lose your mind for a moment, just, definitely 3 fingers pointed back on that one. Oh, that's a good one. I've never heard that before. Older sibling says, tote your tolerance. Tote your tolerance. So yes, tote your tolerance. Or pack your patience. I had to match tote your tolerance with something I just made up in my head. Pack your patience. So yeah, definitely pack your patience. But also, I know there are people who struggle. We talked about a family yesterday who almost didn't have the Christmas they deserved, and they got the Christmas they deserved thanks to the community and her church. And it still hits me in all the right feels. It still hits me in all the right ways. And I love that. But not everybody is going to have that community. Not everybody is going to have those people. And there are going to be people who will judge, who says, well, maybe you should have made better life choices and your children wouldn't be suffering. Don't do that. Seriously, don't do that. All right. As a person who has not made all the greatest choices in my life because I've been afraid to basically just live, I was complacent and content with the status quo because I was afraid, and control is fear. And, so sometimes we just make choices that hold us back. And other people, sometimes they make choices that, they can't change. And, they learn from them. But the problem is that people still hold it against them. So stop. All right. This is Christmas. And whether you are a follower of Christmas, whether you believe in Christmas, whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or, the beloved Commonwealth tradition of Boxing Day, which someday I hope to explore and enjoy because that just sounds like super fun. Whatever it is, or if you just don't celebrate it all. Maybe you just don't believe in Christmas. Maybe your religion doesn't let you believe in Christmas. Whatever it is. These are things that we should know, period, across the board. These are the things that make us human. Patience, empathy, kindness, compassion. It's not about just us as an individual. It's about how we spread our light or our darkness. Sometimes it might be a dim light, but a dim light's better than no light. And I'm not saying that you have to push yourself out of a mood if you're in one. What I'm saying is just look around. I've been in a funk for a while, and I realized this because there's a lot of people I just kind of let slip off the radar in the last month. And it's been really hard to kind of push through. And then one moment I just said to myself, it's like, you know what? How much longer do you want to sit in this? And this isn't something I would have done a long time ago. But this is why it's also important for us to show ourselves compassion and empathy. It's like, Shelly Marie, you can't change what happened in the last month, but you can change what happens with all your tomorrows. Today and on. Do you want today to be a better day than yesterday? Yes. Do you want tomorrow to be a better day than today? I'll just be grateful for tomorrow. And then we'll go from there. Because not every day is going to be perfect. Not every day is going to be sunshine and roses. Some days, some of us will go through those dark days. But right now, during the holidays, this seems to really kind of intensify and ramp up the feelings, right? People feeling like they don't have Christmas because, they don't have presents. Christmas isn't about presents, all right? Christmas is about coming together. It's about celebrating together. Even if you were just eating a bag of chips, a bottle of beer, and sitting in front of the TV watching old Christmas movies, if that's what you love to do, that's what you love to do. Older sibling, Christmas was just another day because her family, growing up, her parents were musicians. So they were always performing on Christmas Day. So Christmas Eve was their big day. And that's still her thing. So between her and I, we exchange presents on Christmas Eve because that's become the tradition when I'm with her. And, you know, it's just also the loved ones. Today, older sibling believes, older sibling told me today is the day they're burying Aunt Joyce. And all I can think of is, you know, Aunt Joyce lived a good life. Yes, 93. People say, oh, well, she lived a great life. Yeah, we know. But when it's your parent, you want them to live forever. You know, or you just, you know, you just want them to live forever. You want everybody you love to live forever. And we know that's not possible. But it was rather sudden. You know, I mean, I found out the details of how Aunt Joyce died, and it was really sudden. It was not expected. It was just kind of like, what? We were going to see Mom for the holidays, and now we're burying her. And her sons are burying her today. And the family, just the immediate family. In the summer, they're going to do a memorial for her. We'll definitely be at that one. But yeah, they're, you know, they're burying their mother 2 days before Christmas and on Christmas Eve. And I can't imagine what's going through their hearts right now. You know, laughter, joy, and sadness. The idea that Mom won't be there for this Christmas. And it's not like they were given any time to just kind of move through the feelings before the holiday started. She passed last week. And a week before Christmas, a week and a half before Christmas. So now is the time for us to just, you know, as older sibling says, tote your tolerance. And for me, pack your patience. And, you know, lift people with your love. Since we're on that track, lift people with your love. Lift people with your kindness. Lift people with your joy. You know, I read a story yesterday, and it was a wonderful story about so apparently Italy has really bad, or really strong adoption laws. So, you know, they prefer that children adopted go to families, you know, complete families. And this one single gay man wanted so badly to be a dad. And so finally, you know, they're all, okay, well, nobody else wants this child, so do you want her? And he said, I didn't care because I just wanted to be a dad. And she's a little girl with Down syndrome. And 20 families passed on her because they said they didn't want to deal with the long-term disability. This child is going to grow up productive. This child is going to grow up, you know, offering the world a lot of beautiful things not because of a disability, not because people will see her disability, but because she knows she's loved. And this man, even though he's a single gay man and he was literally the last option for this child, he said, okay, all right, I'm in. And he rushed to the hospital after the mom surrendered her, and he said, I'm in. This is my baby. This is my daughter. And I thought that was the most beautiful, selfless thing. Not because he adopted the child, not because, you know, as a single gay man, he finally got to adopt a child as a last resort, but because he didn't care. The joy of him being a father was the ultimate kindness. And he could have passed on that. He could have said no. But one of the reasons I brought that up is I was reading the comments, and one guy says, you know, he's all, about 10 years ago I made a bad choice. And he's all, I want to be a father. And he's all, I was hoping to be a father, but, you know, they won't let me adopt because, you know, I guess, I don't know if he was incarcerated or what, but whatever the bad choice was, it kind of put him on the no-fly list for being an adoptive parent. And what I also saw on there was not a bunch of people ignoring his comment, a bunch of people saying, look, if you have been on the straight and narrow, like you said, for the last 10 years, They might make exceptions. Go check with a caseworker. Go check with someone. You know, maybe you can even foster a child, which can lead to an adoption. But, you know, because he's all, I can't change what I've done, but I have changed who I am. And I think that's the other thing. Sometimes we have to learn how to give people the benefit of the doubt. You know, sometimes we have to learn how to remind ourselves that people can change. See, people will always say a leopard can't change its spots. No, it can't. But a leopard is also a wild animal with natural instincts who is just taught to kill to survive. Okay. I mean, we don't expect the leopard to become a vegetarian. Now, would we? No, we don't. So I think that's a poor example. I mean, I get it. I get it, because sometimes, you know, the human leopard really doesn't change their spots. They go in and they get better, and then they go dumb again. And then everyone around them is just waiting for them to fail. But sometimes it just takes one person to believe in them for them to say, hey, you know what? Okay. All right. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this. I made bad choices. Maybe I can do this. And we push forward. We move forward. So, oh, Sammy liked that story. It was a beautiful story. I saw it on Facebook yesterday, and I did Google it. So it was true. But yeah, sorry guys, I don't know what is happening. My ear just keeps plugging up. And you know, it's like being on an airplane when your ears just, but it's only one side. So it's kind of like my left side is in a cloud. I don't know if someone's trying to talk to me or what, but they usually come in on this side and my ear, you know, whatever. Anyway, it's the spirit of Christmas coming to say, Shelley Marie. So there was this another story that I read yesterday, and I struggled with sharing it. And I'll be honest with you, I struggled with sharing it because, not because of the content of the story, but because who was involved. And it's still a little difficult because I'm not asking for people to have empathy for something that, you know, was an atrocity back in World War II. But this story really kind of hit me sideways. And it was a beautiful story of sorts. And it had to do with an American bomber plane, and a World War II German flying ace from the Luftwaffe. Luftwaffe? Seriously, my German lacks. But, and yes, I am a little bit of German. But, I know. Well, this is why Muddy calls me a mutt, because I'm a total mutt. Like a Heinz 57 with all 57. But anyways, I'm going to share it. Okay? And I don't, you know, I know you hear the word Nazi and you're like, nope, going to turn it off. Please don't. Because this is another thing about kindness. This happened on December 20th, 1943. December 20th, 5 days before Christmas. There was an American bomber over Germany, struggling. They were hit. They were everything. And this ace who he had, I can't remember how many, I think he had 27 confirmed kills under his Luftwaffe belt. And he just needed one more to be decorated. Okay, now it's kind of like the old thing where, you know, on the Ally side, if you completed 25 missions, you could go home. You know, and so, Masters of the Air is a very good show. You should watch it. It's on Apple. I think it might still be there. I don't know, but it was a good. It's a series, but it's a limited series. But it was very good. Anyways, Franz Stins, I believe was his name. I'm trying to remember their names. Now, the pilot of the American bomber, not hard for me to remember because it's actually the same name as a beloved cartoon character and one of my very good friends, Charles Brown. Charles Brown was the pilot, and he was a very young pilot. 21, I believe it said he was. So, you know, Franz decided, hey, this is easy pickings. So he gasses up his plane, he flies up, and he's like, all right, I just need one more, and I am the man in Germany. And he sees that nobody's fighting back. And he can't understand why. But he sees that there are holes in this plane. There is just a lot of bad things happening on this plane. And he realizes when he kind of gets closer that all these they're just kids. They're teenagers. They're very young adults. And they're not worried about fighting right now. They're worried about keeping their plane in the air and getting to safety. And in that moment, Franz makes a decision. I'm not going to shoot down this plane. These are just kids. And they said that, he said that he got close enough. And this is actually in a book. Okay, a man wrote a book about this. He actually got close enough that he could see how the terrified looks on all of them, including Charles Brown, who was flying this plane. And again, in that moment, he made the split decision. I can't shoot these kids down. But if anybody finds out, I'm in big trouble. I can be court-martialed. I can be tried for treason. I can be killed for treason, especially in the army that he was fighting with, right? Because we know how nasty they were. But Franz made that choice. So while these kids are looking at him all terrified, thinking, crap, he's about to shoot us down, which I'm sure is not the words they used. Instead, he flew next to them. He pulled right up beside their plane, flew next to them, and started guiding them over German territory. Now, other German planes started coming at him, and Franz kept waving them off like, no, and they're confused. They don't know what is happening, dude. Like, what are you doing? We're supposed to be, knocking these people out of the sky. But he's just like, nope, waves them off. And because Franz was such a skilled airman, if you will, he was respected. And so they're just like, okay, well, I don't know what Franz is doing, but all right, we're gonna, bye, we'll keep. And he was trying to get them and hoping the plane would last until they were at least somewhere out of occupied territory and into a safe place where they could land and be rescued. They made it back to England, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember because I only read through this story once. I was almost in tears by the time I was done reading it. So anyways, Charles Brown was able to land the plane. Franz went back to Germany, and don't worry, Franz lived. But for years and years, Charles Brown always remembered this. He always remembered this. And apparently so did Franz. Franz remembered this too. He's like, this is a pivotal moment in my life where compassion and empathy overtook the need to be decorated and the atrocities of war. It was his human side coming out. And yes, he's only one man, but he saved a plane load of kids, basically kids, all right? At my age, they're all kids. And so for years, Charles Brown thought about this, and then for decades more, he was looking, he never forgot this man, and he was looking all over after the war for this man who saved their lives. And so finally, he years later, he put an ad in a German pilot newspaper, and he asked if anybody knew who this man was. Finally, he got a response from Franz himself. I am that man. And they met, and they became very, very good friends. Despite where they were back in 1943, 50 years later, they met and became very close and very good friends. Like I said, a gentleman wrote a book on this, about this extraordinary event. There is another story, and it was a true story I read, that with a British soldier and a Japanese POW camp leader, which was quite interesting as well. I can't remember that story, but it was fascinating, but not like Franz and Charles. But anyways, they became very good friends, and interestingly enough, when Charles died first, Franz died a year later. It was either a year later or a couple months later. I think it was the next year, but it was just months. But An extraordinary friendship happened out of the most terrifying of times. And for a moment, Franz wasn't a Nazi Luftwaffe. He was just a human. He was a man who saw a bunch of kids, and he wasn't that much older than Charles. He was probably in his, Charles was in his very early 20s. I think I said he was 21. Franz was probably about, I think I did the math at about 5 years older. So definitely well into his 20s. But he made a choice as a human. So you're probably wondering, Shelley Marie, why are you sharing this story? Because that story has patience. That story has empathy. That story has compassion. That story shows us that when people are lost in their own overwhelm and stress, that sometimes the most unlikely of people will come through for them. Sometimes it'll be the obvious people, like your community, your church, wherever you turn your faith. Like what Muddy did with that beautiful family over the weekend so that they can have a beautiful Christmas. But these gentlemen were rescued. They were rescued in England, brought back to England, and they were able to celebrate Christmas. And meanwhile, Franz is probably going back to Germany going, oh boy, I wonder what's going to happen to me. And I don't know how he got out of it. I don't know what happened. Maybe, the guys were like, yeah, we totally get it, so thanks for, oh, and that was the last thing I forgot. When Franz left Charles's side, after he guided him out of occupied territory, he saluted him. They gave each other a salute. But that touched Charles enough that he never forgot that moment. And he wanted to find the man to thank him for giving him another chance, to giving him a chance at life. And like I said, it's the least, it's someone, I guess when we hear that the big N word, right, the Nazi word, we think, oh yeah. But in this moment, like I said, this man shed his uniform and his allegiance, and he says no. Franz the compassionate man needs to come out, and he needs to save these kids. And, I hope Franz had a good life. I don't know how many people he shot down. War is ugly. War is ugly. And like I said, I'm not defending that party in any by any stretch of the imagination. But I wanted to share that story because it shows what happens when we allow our basic human instinct of compassion and empathy and kindness and love to come out over allegiance to something stupid. Sorry, I guess I got a little judgy there. But over our allegiance to the country. We have to learn how to love one another. We have to learn how to respect one another. We have to learn how to be kind and compassionate to one another. And we have to stop sitting there and infighting. Because this world right now, it doesn't feel like Christmas. I know everybody's getting ready for holidays, all the lights are out, everything's pretty. But this year has been so difficult that even the Christmas lights, I haven't seen very many. In places that you would expect them to be up, it's kind of like, it's like nobody cares. And I don't think it's that nobody cares. I think everybody just is sad in some way. And, I don't know. I don't want to go in that direction, so I'm not going to because it's Christmas Eve. So I'm going to leave you with the story of Franz and Charles. And, and just think about how in the most terrifying moment, the most extraordinary event happened. And, decades down the road, two men who were once enemies became best friends, became very close. and respectful of one another. You know, and it sounds like a really good book. I know I sent myself the article, so I'll have to find out what the name of the book is, but it was, you know, somebody in the comments said they read the book and were just like, wow, they were like kind of flabbergasted. And, you know, it was a guy and he's all like, yeah, I was in tears at the end because he's like, what an extraordinary story. And, yeah, so let's just be kind to one another. All right. Even if you can only put up the surrender flag, right? The not a truce, but, you know, like, even if it's just a temporary truce, all right? It's the holidays. Don't talk politics. Don't talk religion. Don't talk anything that you think will start the ruckus and the debates in the house. Just go and enjoy your families. Go and find peace with them. Go and find love with them. You know, if they start talking about things that you don't want to talk about, you have every right to get up and walk away or walk out or leave. And if they say something, you just say, you know what? I'm choosing peace for the holidays. That's it. I'm choosing peace for the holidays. And, you know, I'm very grateful that that doesn't normally happen in my family. So we get goofy. I mean, I think we don't see each other enough during the year. So we just talk about the dumbest shit, you know. Whatever comes out of our face is what we're talking about, and half the time I can't even remember because there's so many different conversations happening. But let's be better. Okay, let's be kind. So again, tote your tolerance, pack your patience, and, you know, exercise your empathy. There we go. That's the last one you're going to get from me, all right? Older siblings started it, and carry your compassion. All these things, all right? Exercise your empathy, all right? So, I have some traveling to do, and I am going to get out of here. So anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. I may or may not be on tomorrow because I have an idea, if I do come on, what I'm going to share, but I'm not going to tell you, okay? I'm not going to tell you. So, just in case, all right? But, I think it would be a good one, and I think it's another one that we may need to hear at the times that we live in. So, anyways, again, have a wonderful day. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Oh, no, I won't be. Well, maybe if I'm on tomorrow. I'll be back for 8:30 a.m. Pacific Time, Facebook Live. All lives are public under Shelley Marie Lucas. Sammy says, thanks for the show. Not all of us love Christmas. I love you too, Muddy. I admit... So, okay, I know I said I was going to leave you, but I'm going to leave you with this. Christmas, since my mother died, has been very, very hard for me. At the time before she died, I was struggling really heavily with my depression. I refused to be on meds because I didn't have a problem. I did, but I ignored it because I thought I could handle it. And I could not. But, you know, I just kind of... You know, and so basically, you know, I remember one year I went for Christmas, and my parents didn't show, and because my mom was not feeling well. No, I didn't show because I wasn't feeling well. Yeah, I was in a funk. I didn't feel like making the drive, which basically meant I was in a full-on depression because it was Christmas. And, you know, it just didn't feel like Christmas. You know, when I was a kid, I had all these ideas of what my Christmases would be like as an adult. Did not know I'd spend so many single. And I think that was really just weighing on me. And then the next year I went, and I thought, no, this year I gotta go, you know, for some reason I gotta go. But my mom wasn't feeling well. So my parents didn't come because, you know, I mean, it's about 70 miles from my dad's house, and it's about 50 miles from my house to get to Christmas. And, but the way I come, it's a lot more trafficy. So anyways, I thought, oh, okay, well, you know, my mom was like, well, we'll always, you know, don't worry, we'll have next Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And then she died. And the first thing I thought is, I lied straight to my mom's face the Christmas before that I was sick, that I had the flu, when I didn't. I just didn't feel like going. And I carried that guilt for a very, very long time. Now, I'm not saying that's why some people don't love Christmas. Some people just don't like Christmas. Christmas might be hard. Maybe, you wanted to be a part of a relationship or have a significant other, or, I always wondered how magical that would be. I had boyfriends at Christmas time, and, that always just seemed to go okay. But, it was just kind of like everything was on their whim, even though I have family, so it's kind of like, But, and at the time, it was just kind of like, we gotta go. My family's waiting. But before that, everything was great and, just lovely and everything. So not, Sammy says, I've never liked it and dread the holiday season every year. We got to talk one day, girl, because I am so curious as to why you don't like Christmas. I used to love it. I did. Now it just, I don't know. I don't know what I expect from Christmas. Maybe I expect too much. But I'm feeling mildly festive right now. And like I said, I think for me, I put too much into the relationship bowl, right? Like, I always see them, like, oh, my cousins are in these fabulous marriages, and, my parents and my aunts and uncles, and, and it's just kind of like, and here I come toting older sibling and my stray for Christmas, I'm always the one that brings the strays, and I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just people who don't have anywhere to go, it's like, hey, well, come, my family will welcome you. But, yeah, I'm not here to question why people never liked it, don't like it, for whatever reason. Lots of people have lots of reasons, and we also can't push them out of their comfort zones, because that's the other thing sibling says, people mourning loved ones, or people lost in their own overwhelm or stress, or people just navigating the holiday season when they're not big fans of it. So, I think a lot of times we just put too much stress on ourselves. So for whatever reason, if you're feeling in the funk, I'm sending all kinds of love and hugs to you. If you're feeling like you just don't like Christmas, I'm sending lots of love and hugs to you. So, yeah, I guess that's it. So I am trying to get back in the swing of Christmas. I'm trying to navigate it from a different place now that I've kind of healed all the mommy guilt. So that's my thing now. But anyways, again, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Check in tomorrow at 8:30. I may do a show. Actually, you know what? How about this? I'm going to commit myself. Because there is a story I want to share, and it's not a new story. It's an old story that we've all heard. No, it's not A Christmas Carol. No, it's not The Night Before Christmas. It's something a little bit different, but something very similar along the lines of what we talked about today. So if you know, and if you have guesses, you might be right. If you catch where I'm going with the hints and the clues. So yes, tomorrow, Christmas Eve, the princess. And Joyce used to call me the Hawaiian princess. So the Hawaiian princess of Canterbury Tales shall be coming on for the Christmas Eve message. All right. So again, maybe I'll light candles. We'll make it all official. So we'll see. All right. I don't want to get ahead of myself there, because then I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. All right, so I got to go. I hope everybody, again, has a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm really wanting to go now because it's about to rain and I want to beat the rain home. So, again, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public. Anybody can watch across the board. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful, safe, and lovely day.